So they're basically
No, actually, the
pandering.
Muslims see him as a Messiah, but they don't see him as a as the
Right.
Son of God or as a holy figure.
So
Yeah,
he's a
they don't.
false
It's the
They see
prophet.
Jews
him as
that
a.
don't. It's the Jews that well, it's a Jewish religion
It's
that see him
not.
as a false prophet.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, the Jews see him as a completely right. Set 100%. The Jews see him as a false prophet. The Muslims believe that Muhammad actually, technically, Muhammad in their eyes was technically the Messiah. So
Mhm.
Jesus and Muhammad are contenders for messiahs. However, Muhammad came 650 years after Jesus.
Mhm.
And also Muhammad called for the destruction of every other religion other than Islam.
Yep.
Completely wipe out Christians and allow Jews to live, but only if they pay you penance. I don't understand how we could consider Allah and God on the same level if Allah and that wants to wipe out the entire existence of Jews and Christians and that previous
Mhm.
religion.
I'm almost sure Allah doesn't say that. Now I know you're speaking of passages in the Quran, but I would have to see the full context of that. Because usually when people tell me all this evil stuff about it, I go look it up, I read the context, and turn out to be something completely different. And they're not really calling for it. They're just stating the story that happened, or they're just sharing the atrocities, or they're just telling us the atrocities of a certain group or a certain person. And just because it's in the
So
Quran, people say, "Oh, that's what the Quran support." And in my true
so
belief, I do believe that Allah and God are the same people. The problem is that you can call them the same people. The problem is that the Christians see that that Christ is the Son of God, and the Muslims just don't see that.
But that's
Now,
just Jesus. Now, Jesus was a man, guys. We have to think of it this way.
hmm,
Regardless of what you think of Jesus Christ as a Messiah, as Christ himself, Jesus was a man. He was just a
mhm.
man, and he lived 2,000 years ago or so.
all right,
And
so you okay.
he claimed to be the Son of God, and he claimed to be, and he died for our sins. In the end, he was the son of a carpenter, but he was a man. Now,
Mhm.
what we have to think about with that, and I'm not saying that, because Christianity for me is a fine-tooth comb. My half of my family was Jehovah's Witness when I grew up, and the other half were Methodists. And we had a gay preacher and who got excommunicated from the church because no one knew she was gay, which, by the way, she was a bull dyke. So everybody should have known. Like, they really should have known. But like, so for me, religion has always been tenuous, right?
Hmm.
What bothers me about this whole story is that you have to think about how Jesus lived his life and how Muhammad lived his life. Muhammad married a 6-year-old.
Yep.
6, 9-year-old. You're right.
No. He
But hold on,
consummated
but
it.
now let's take that into historical context though. That's what everybody was doing. That just wasn't
No. Who
specialty to
married a
Muhammad.
6-year-old?
Everybody
Historically,
back
in
in that day.
context,
Everybody.
6-year-olds, buddy.
No, it was. She's
I'll
actually
go with.
9.
I'll
She
go
was
with.
actually 9. She's actually
No,
9. But you're right.
He
She was
consummated
9.
at 9. He consummated at
Yeah,
9,
after
which means
puberty, and that's what
he.
everybody was doing back then. So I'm not saying it was right. I'm just
It
saying you
wasn't.
can't
It
blame
wasn't.
somebody for a common practice of that day, and it was a
Show
common
me.
practice
Show
all
me
the way
what
up to like
society that was
close to
normal
our
in.
time.
Show me what society that consummating, which means having sex with a 9-year-old,
The Roman
was
Catholic
common.
Empire believed in pedophilic relationships for apprenticeship.
Oh,
I mean,
do you think
hey,
the
there you
Romans were the
go.
people? No, question. Do you think the Romans are the people we should look at for a
So
moral
she's
stance?
comparing.
No.
She's
Look. Here's the
comparing. Hold on.
thing.
Hold on. Hold
You
on.
gotta
Hold on. She's
understand. There's
comparing
gods where
Muhammad to Jesus. So think
Yeah, we
about
have to.
Joseph.
We have to.
Think about
I don't
Joseph and
think
Mary.
that's a fair
Was Mary?
comparison because Muhammad is not the Messiah. They actually see Jesus the Messiah. Muhammad's a prophet. So you're comparing a prophet to the Messiah. That's not a fair comparison.
No, Jesus was the prophet.
But think
Wrong.
about his.
You're
No, he
thinking
was a
of it. You're
Messiah.
thinking of it how Christians think of it as a Messiah.
But
Okay,
isn't that what
that's
we're
how
doing here?
Christians think of it. But that's how a Christian would think of. Oh my God, I rever I
Okay, so we're
revere this.
comparing the guys outside of their divinity or their
Yeah,
or their
pull them
okay.
outside because
Okay.
they were men in historical context. They were actual men, just like
Mhm.
you, just like me.
True.
They were actual people that lived. I will say that 100%. Muhammad was a real man. Jesus was a real man. There's
Someone had to
way
write
too
the
much
book.
history there's way too much history across the world for us to not know that they were actual people, regardless of their quote unquote divinity. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes. But
So
look at Mary and Joseph. Mary and Joseph were what, 35?
Mary and
Like
Joseph.
I
Actually,
know.
there's been reports that she
Mary,
was
no,
like
Mary was
15.
yeah, Mary was Set's right. Mary was closer to 15 or 16, which was, and I will say this, that was the standard age back then. Between 13 and 15 was the standard age to marry because that's when a woman would get her period, which meant that she was coming into
Whoa,
womanhood.
hold on now. Not all the time now. There are special cases, even today, where women get their
Well,
periods in the single digits.
No,
so
but that is
here's the thing.
actually
Here's
no. Look this up.
Mhm.
Look this up
Mhm.
just for context. The
Gotcha.
hormones that have been introduced into our diets
Yep.
through animals and other things over the last 60 years have actually accelerated that rate. The normal age for a woman to get her period prior to the 1950s
Was
was
15, 16.
between 11 and 16. So there was a 5 year period. And yes, I understand 11 is young, and I would consider that too young.
Hmm.
But at 11 years old, she would
Okay.
get her period. If you came into
Mhm.
your period at 11 years old, quote unquote, in the prior history, you would be eligible for marriage.
Yep.
That is,
No.
Set was not wrong on speaking about that, about how young women used to get married, but it was always based on when they became a woman.
Hmm.
Mhm. And that's the thing. That's what they say, or well, that's what my Muslims homies tell me. They're like, well, yeah, she was pubescent at that age of 9, and that's why that relationship continued. And
No,
that's what
she
they
was no,
and
she
that's
was
what they were trying to see it back then. They weren't really looking at age; they were looking at maturity. If you actually like read about Aisha, she was doing a lot of mature things for her age, and this is
Hey
their
man,
explanation of it.
do you know anybody that's 9 years old?
That does a
But
lot.
you have to
No,
Yeah.
think about
I'm
the
just saying this. I'm
lifespan of a
saying this
human back
to both
then.
of you. I'm asking both of you. Do you know anybody in your life that's 9 years old? A
Yeah.
son,
Yeah.
a brother, a cousin.
Hmm.
Okay. Do you think that 9 year old is sexually complicit?
So
You think
No,
it's
hold on,
now
okay
hold
to
on. We
have
gotta
hold
think of
sex
different context. You're talking
with
about
a
guys
9 year
in the
old?
common day. Like we'd have to bring somebody out the past and be like, yeah, well, what do you think about this 9-year-old? Because they'd probably
But
say, oh
even
no, she's
then,
good to go. We're gonna be disgusted by the idea.
The Christian Bible spoke about maturity and about the Christian Bible does not speak at all about having sex with children. And I'm just
so
I mean,
Is it
if we
gay?
let
want
me
to
put a
talk about
Hmm.
let me put a pause on that for 1 second. You also
okay,
have to understand the historical context of when all of this was happening and what the average lifespan of a human was
Good point.
2,000
about
years ago.
it was
35
about
to
30
40.
years. It was about
Yeah.
30 years. Actually, it wasn't even 35 to 40. It was about 30 years.
Mhm.
Which is why if you guys look back at like Alexander the Great, he died before he made it to 30.
I
Like,
thought he was like, yeah, he's like 28, 30.
yeah,
Yeah,
he
he's like
was real
28.
young.
Yeah.
He fucked his way across the world and then died, I think, from syphilis. He died from a
Hey,
sexually transmitted disease, which is sad, but
hey, I always say that man was like the first gay Navy guy. He just took his army around the world and had a whole lot of gay sex, which is crazy.
there's the whole thing about Rome. Now, I have to tell you,
Mhm.
Rome fell because they ate lead, guys. Like they
But
weren't
Rome
they
also fell
weren't
because a
the
lot of like
smartest
weird practices too.
people, and they had a lot of weird practices. And Set said earlier, if you think about, okay, do you guys remember the movie Troy?
Mhm. Oh yes,
I've heard.
With
I don't
it was a
remember it though.
pedophilic relationship between a
Yeah,
an intern and their master, or a
Patrocles.
yeah.
Yeah, they called him his cousin, right? They called him Achilles' cousin, which was played by Brad Pitt. his cousin was Patroclus, and Patroclus got killed, and that was the problem. Actually, during the Battle of Troy, Patroclus was his boy servant. He
Yep.
was he was like 14 years old, and he was the guy that it's really sad actually to think
Yeah, and
of.
they're their boy toy until they eventually grow up and become what their master or their guide or
Or
sponsor
they
becomes. So if you want to be a
chopped off their
blacksmith,
genitalia. Like
yep.
there are some
Or like
barbaric
if you want to be a
things.
blacksmith in Rome, you pretty much have to let the blacksmith, you have to be his butt boy.
Right.
And so we're talking, we're looking at a point in history that was barbaric and medieval, and we're trying to talk about it in a context of today, where
Yeah.
I don't,
Right.
obviously that's, if you think about the average lifespan being 30 years old, and even Muhammad, consummating a marriage of a woman that, or a little
I'm going to
girl
tell you right
nowadays.
now, at 9 years old, that girl had no boobs. That
Yeah,
girl looked
And
no different than a child in any context.
right, but
most
that's
time,
how
yes,
we're
yes.
looking at it now.
Yeah.
That's how we are looking at it now, because we are post medieval and post
So
barbarism.
are you saying that he thought he saw her and he saw a fruitful woman
Yeah,
and he
most
thought I
likely.
can
Obviously,
she
because he
can
married
bear
her,
Yeah.
and
children?
Yeah, because she ended up doing so, didn't she?
I'm sure she did. I'm sure she
Now, though,
did. I
because here's
can
the
only
thing, though,
imagine.
you got to admit, Monty has a point. The average lifespan was 30 years. So if we meet in between, you're middle aged at 15. So that means at 9, you're kind of looking about your time. Sadly.
a 15-year-old is now a 35-year-old, if you span the
No,
lifespans out.
Yeah.
guys, human development is not that way. What we're finding
No, no, no,
even
no. We
now,
understand that human development is not that way. But
Human
when you think of
development,
it on
it's
the terms
irrelevant.
of,
We're not talking about
but you're
yeah,
science.
but
We're
talking
if you
about
think
talking
of it
about
on the terms
perception.
of
You're
the
talking
modern
about
age,
perception. So back then, the perception of human development versus what we perceive as human
yes.
development today, right?
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
and it's not
I can
exactly.
understand that,
So
but
think about it like this: if everybody's dying at 30, then you're thinking that, oh yeah, this girl's pretty much it's prime time for her. But if everybody's dying at 80, you're thinking, yo, this girl's young as hell. Maybe let's wait until like
but
16, 18.
still that wasn't the average age of marriage. The average age of marriage back then was the age of 12. And you can
Well,
look
the
at that
average.
historically.
So hold
You
on.
can
Let's
look at
let's
that
look at let's look at it right
historically,
now.
Yeah.
Let's look at it right now. So the average age of marriage right now is 27. So what
which
if
is
a
not
that
healthy. I want to say, I want to just speak to that. I don't think that's healthy either. I think we've come to like a turning point where we're not breeding now, which is odd
but
because
but that if
27
you
is late.
oh, if you span that out with lifespan, a 27-year-old is now in the on the same scale as a 15-year-old. So someone can get married at 18 years old in America, and in some places it's as young as 14. But in in the world we live in right now, you dial that back and dilate that back. It's very very consistent with the lifespan development of what the average age in the world is. So
Right.
nothing crazy.
Which only means to me with that is that Muhammad was not on a level of taking care of human development. He was on the level of conquering.
Yeah,
Because
but I do believe
just
that.
like,
But let's be real though.
okay, go
All the
ahead.
holy books say that they say the word of God, and then they talk about the folly of man. I think that's what we're forgetting about the Quran, because the Bible does the same thing. It talk about the gloriness of God and his prophets, and then it goes into the folly of man of all the different wars, the senseless killing. The Quran's doing the
Mhm.
same thing, but except we're taking everything so personal.
Wrong. You guys really
Okay.
need to read the book of Surah. You guys really need to read it. Chapter 11 in the book of Surah is the most opening. So what you need to see in the book of Surah is the talk of infidels and how they speak to treating everyone else that isn't them. And that's where Islam really sets itself apart, and
Yes.
why there are 2 billion people now that believe this in the world, and they are doing everything they can to not only infiltrate our country, but infiltrate every country in the world and set themselves up. Because what the Quran teaches is it teaches that Islam is superior
Yep.
to everything, which most people would say, especially if you grew up in the United States, if you grew up in not even just the United States, but just the Western world in general,
Mhm.
most people would say that's what Christianity teaches, right? Because I grew up thinking, oh, I don't want to be like those guys. They're fucking assholes, and they tell me my gay pastor is an asshole, but I love my gay pastor. I've known my gay pastor forever, right?
Yeah.
And they're gonna excommunicate her. That's stupid. So we realized that, but that also comes with informed thought, which a lot of
Yeah.
people in the world have informed thought right now. We have Google at our fingertips. We have the ability to learn. Something that Islam teaches that everyone else is wrong
Okay,
other
Yep.
than
hold on now.
you.
I don't know about that one.
No, it does.
Uh,
It absolutely does. You can
It
be a Jew in
absolutely
Islam.
But they
does.
actually, but in the Islam it says to each their own religion, and like I
No,
said,
it
we're
does
But
talking
hold
not.
on,
about
hold on, hold on.
That's what I'm
certain
telling
Finish
you.
figure. We're
that.
talking
Finish
about
that out.
certain
Sir,
Finish that out.
characters
Sir,
within
Finish
the
that out.
book that you're
Hold on.
framing
said
Finish
as
that
the
out.
whole teaching.
said
Each.
Islam
Hold
does
on.
not
No, no, no.
say that everyone's even.
So no, no. It says to each their own religion, but it also says that Jews and Christians and Buddhists do not make good friends, do not make good people to associate with. So
Yep.
it's putting Islam, like it's saying, oh, these people can coexist as long as Jews pay you and Christians convert. That's
Yep.
not exactly being
But does it give
peaceful.
you a character of who's saying that, or this is coming straight from
No, that's
Muhammad,
straight. It's straight.
Allah?
That's
It
from.
no, this is what
Mhm.
the jihad is. So
Mhm.
you have jihad against non-believers. That's actually what it is. So it's
Yep.
jihad against non-believers. Now, non-believers are anybody that are not solid Muslims. They are not followers of Allah, which means
Yep.
that Christians, that means Jews, and that means atheists, that means pagans, that means anybody else in the world other than people that actually believe in Islam. And what it is they straight up tell you, okay, so you have a jihad against these people. You need to convert them. If
Yep.
they will not convert, then you can tell them that they can, as long as they are Jews, they can pay you to exist in your society because they are Jews. And for some reason, Islam has some kind of a debt to the Jews. Not, I've never really figured that out. But if they are Christians and they will not submit and bend the knee and become Muslims, you kill them.
Yep.
You kill every single person other than the Jews, which is, I honestly, the only reason I can only think of that is because in the Bible it says that the only people that are going to be saved are the Jews, so they are the saved people. And so for some reason, Muhammad thought that if he killed them, Allah would strike him down. Maybe. I don't quite know that one. But it
So now, remember, we're talking about it applies only to the prophet's direct address. So we're talking about a direct address from the prophet Muhammad.
mhm.
So, like I said, we always in these books we talk about what God wants, and then we talk about the folly of man. Was there not wars that was going off in the Bible? Yes. So we can't just sit here and say, oh, well, everything a war general says is the commandment from their God and that should just be taken as all of them. Because within context, like I said,
Well,
when I look this up in context, there's always more to it. It's not just God
But hey,
saying it.
Seth.
This is
Hey, Seth.
Muhammad making an address to
Seth.
his military talking
Seth.
about this is the plan.
Okay, cool. That's great and all. The book says one thing, and radical Islamists are practicing another. That's what
but
I'm
it's not
saying.
always,
Good point.
you have to understand something. It's not radical when the women choose. You have to understand something. This is a religion that directly oppresses women. Okay? And I'm not gonna hold too hard on that because I don't want to make this about like oppression of women. But these
The
people
Lord knows the
directly
Muslims ain't
oppress
conceding
women,
that.
and the women that live in this religion accept the fact that they aren't allowed to show their face, they aren't allowed to show their hair, they're not allowed to drive, they're not allowed to leave the house without an escort. that their sons, as soon as their sons are over 6 years old, their sons can dictate to them what they're supposed to do because women are inferior to men based on the Quran. And
Yep.
that is 100% true.
I mean, look at how look at how
Set, I love that you are playing devil's advocate here because you're making me think really hard.
Now,
But
when
I'm
it
going to
comes to
tell
the
you,
women, I'll give you this. When it comes to the women, you're right. There are some women who leave Islam, but there's a lot of women who actually like their religion. So I don't think it's really fair to sit there and say that, oh, well, these women feel subjugated. A lot of these women feel like they're submitting to God.
Yeah,
Most of them. And I think it's just our Western ideology of us just seeing women in burqas that's be like, oh, they must be oppressed. I mean, we do the same thing to women in conservative relationships.
How would you like it if you weren't allowed to
just because you're happy with being oppressed does not mean you're not oppressed.
Yeah, let me
hold
tell
on
you
now.
this.
Who say they're being oppressed and who say they're not just following their religion? That's like me saying that, oh, a Christian girl's oppressed because she's following her religion. She's not going out there and being a hoe. Like, what?
I'm gonna marry you. I'm gonna marry you, okay? We're gonna get married, okay? And we're gonna live in a society, and I'm gonna tell you, hey, boo, you are so attractive to me. I think you are so hot that I'm gonna need you to cover your face. Because I don't want other people seeing you because you're so freaking beautiful. And you've got this beautiful hair. And we put it in braids and we did all this cool stuff, but we're gonna
let's be
cover
real though.
that,
This is
and
about
you're not
practicing
allowed.
modesty. This is about practicing modesty. This is not about a man's jealousy about his wife's beauty or his insecurity about his wife's beauty. It's about practicing modesty in your submission to God.
You have to understand something. It is. Now, in America, we have kind of the opposite where it's nails and booty and hair and tits, right?
And I
Out
think they need
all over the
burqas.
place. Right? Maybe we need some burqas. God damn it. I can't with that comment. I'm sorry. Because you're not wrong.
So my question,
cover their shit up. No, it's cool. They're wearing bonnets out to the store. Come on.
Like, hey, a burqa would be a better look than a bonnet.
Shit. Come on. No, so I'm gonna marry you, and I'm gonna say you're just hot as shit, and we're gonna flip it. And I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna have to cover your hair, you're gonna have to cover your face, and
you're not allowed to drive, you're not allowed to be educated above the age of 8.
Yep, you're not allowed to drive, you're not allowed to go to school. But I'm gonna pay for everything for you, but you're also gonna cook for me, you're gonna do it. It's literally, you have to think of it in that whole context.
That sounds like the 1930s relationship of the American people. It sounds like, bro, you just modestly, I go out there and I get all the bacon. That sounds like a conservative relationship if you minus the burqa. Minus the burqa, that's a conservative relationship.
It is conservative. It's extreme conservatism, and it's Orthodox Islamists that believe that they are right, and that's who the loudest voice, the most extreme voice, is the one that's in power.
You can't say. I'm going to tell you this right now. You can't say Orthodox Islamics because there is no Orthodox. There are no sub churches inside. You have Sunnis, you have Saudis, you have a few different political factions, but for the most part, they all believe the same shit. They don't change. It's not like where Methodists are more loose and will allow people that are gay into their communities, whereas a Southern Baptist absolutely will not. They will completely shun you from their.
All right, now, but hold on. I gotta say this though, because first off, let's just go ahead and make sure we know exactly what the Quran says, because the Quran does say one of the most explicit commands to treat women is live with them in kindness. Like the Quran 4:19 addresses to the husband about their wives to speak gently, not harming or annoying her, which is hilarious, but providing fairly, good companionship and respect. This is all within the Quran.
Yeah, cool. The book says one thing,
and people do another. You're right,
and they're doing another.
People go back to the Quran saying, "Oh, this is their holy book. This is what they teach." and I'm pointing out that's not what the Quran teaches. This is how they're
No, no,
taking
no.
it.
That's one side of that, but at the same time, does not. Yeah, you treat your wife kindly, but does that mean you allow her to leave the house without you? Does that
Let's
mean
think
you
about it
give
this way.
her any
Set,
rights?
set. Think about it
Being
this way.
kind to a person does not
Hold on.
mean that you're giving them rights. Sorry.
Hold
I
on.
don't know your
Let's
name.
let's
Oh, you're good.
What's
let's
your
look at it.
name?
My name,
Yeah.
Monty. Let's
Hi,
think about it
Monty.
this way.
Sorry. I didn't know your
Let's
name.
look at let's look at Christianity. You have on one side of it you have Nick Fuentes, and on the other side of it you have Charlie Kirk.
Good point.
Hmm.
It's the same fucking religion, and now imagine Nick Fuentes is running all over the world spreading their view of Christianity.
Oh God.
Ooh, boy, we're gonna have a crusade within a year.
Now that's the same thing that's going on in Islam, except the Nick Fuenteses of Islam are running the shit.
Yeah, well, and
Mm,
there's 2 billion of them. They all believe the same thing. That's the thing. You know, Dearborn, you guys mentioned Dearborn earlier in the comments. Dearborn is overrun. Like they have calls for Islamic prayer every morning, every afternoon, every evening that are
yeah,
going
that
out
doesn't get.
across an American town. Christians don't sit there
Hold on. Pause
and
for 1 second. I just want to point out this idiot in the chat. Nick Fuentes is not a Christian. He's actually a Catholic. You fucking idiot. You fucking idiot. That's
I'm
that's like saying
sorry.
Osama bin Laden was not a Muslim. He was a Sunni.
My God.
Right? Are you serious?
Or sorry,
Are
was he
you
a Sunni or a
serious?
Shiite? I forgot.
Uh
You're fucking.
he's not a Sunni. No, Sunnis are the Saudi Arabians. That's why they wanted
Yeah,
nothing to do with the Afghanis. They
I don't know
they
the
don't
different
fucking like
breakdowns of it.
Yeah,
them at all.
but no,
They
you know,
don't. You
Monty,
know
you was
what
making a
though?
good point.
They still, you know what though? Here's the thing: the Sunnis still completely oppress their women. Women aren't allowed to drive in their society. The Sunnis still completely believe 100% in the Quran and the oppression of women and
Yep.
they completely believe in that. Now it's different because Saudi Arabia has a lot of money and they have a lot of oil, and so it's very difficult for countries like America um, and the presidents of America, regardless of what political party you're on, whether you're Biden or you're Trump, to say no to Saudi Arabia. It's very difficult, which is why we don't fuck with that part of the Middle East. The only part of the Middle East that we even screw with at all is Afghanistan, Palestine. We fuck with a little bit of Jordan, a little bit of Qatar. Why? Because those are the warring factions that are actually fighting against the Muslim world that we're accepting of, which is Saudi Arabia, which is the Sunnis. That's
Hey,
the
Seth,
only, yeah.
I wanna point out something else too. Someone
Yeah,
made a good comment. If Islam wants to be in the West, they have to face the scrutiny of the West. If they want to be in our civilization, they have to be civilized as we are civilized. They have to rise to our standard. It'd be no different than if we went over to the Middle East and said we want to go live in the Middle East. We have to follow all of their customs and traditions.
it's like this. Like
So
if we brought our constitutional republic to the Middle East, they like lose their shit because now everybody can say anything. I mean, you could talk
You'd have a
about the
heart attack.
king, his wife, Muhammad. You can talk about anybody.
yep.
But you're right. If they're bringing Sharia halal here, it's not compatible because we're used to being able to talk about whoever we want
Right.
with no type of prosecution.
The most beautiful thing about America is that we can be racist all on our own, motherfuckers. Leave us alone.
Yeah, we
We'll
Right.
have to.
deal with ourselves on our own terms. You know, we have our guns, we have our bullshit. And the problem is that politics, I think what's killed us in this day and age now is that where politics used to kind of unite people on certain things. I think, especially with news nowadays and the way that I think it's all kind of out there to divide us. You guys know the the analogy of the ants, right? You take 100 black ants and you take 100 red ants and you put them into a jar, and they'll live peacefully until you shake the jar. And then all of a sudden they're at war, right?
Yep.
And the red
But
ants are blaming the black ants, and the black ants are blaming the red ants, and nobody
Oh, we
knows, you know.
we have the Osama bin Laden of Christianity up on our screen right now.
on life. So let's go ahead and listen to our guy Nick Fuentes for a little bit.
Okay, let's
Because
do it.
the man was actually making some address towards the current situation in DC, or the atrocity that happened in DC. So let's hear him out.
So this 29-year-old Afghan shoots 2 National Guardsmen. And people are going to read the name, which is Ramanullah Lakanwal, and they're going to hear the national origin, Afghanistan. They're going to hear about how he arrived here, ostensibly as a refugee, ostensibly, apparently. And everyone's going to draw some conclusions about who this guy is. They're going to say this is a fanatical Muslim from a Muslim country that we went to war with. We went to war, we bombed them, we engendered hatred, then we brought them here. They hate us, and now they're killing us. He was motivated by his radical, fanatical religion, ideology. He shouted Allahu Akbar, killed Americans, and what we see is what we get. And that's one way to look at it. Maybe that's the case, because all that is true. He is effectively a refugee from Afghanistan, probably is a fanatical Muslim, or could be. Could be. It's plausible. He shot these Americans. They claim he yelled Allahu Akbar. So maybe he hates America. Maybe he hates what America is doing with Israel and Gaza. Maybe he hates what America did in Afghanistan. Who knows? Maybe it's PTSD. Maybe he, because he was a fighter or was involved with American forces in some way, maybe it's like PTSD. Who knows? But we have to understand exactly what this is. And a lot of people don't know that when the United States conducted its operation in Afghanistan over the last 20 years, we recruited support from the locals, the local tribes, militias, soldiers. We recruited the locals to help in many different capacities as we were fighting the conflict, as security forces, military forces, as translators, in a number of different roles. And this is why he was brought to America under the program. It's called Allies Welcome. Why is it called Allies Welcome? Because these are not just any refugees. These are not women and children. These are not fleeing refugees, not strictly speaking. Allies welcome. These are collaborators. These are collaborationists. These are not Afghans that were with the Taliban or ISIS-K. These are Afghans who were working with the United States military and special forces, and probably working with them for many years, and living with them and working with them and ostensibly supporting the goals of the American occupation. That's how we got here. Allies welcome. In 2021, when the Taliban retook control over the country, of course, everybody that was collaborating with the United States is going to be killed. The United States is fighting the Taliban for 20 years. We took power from them. We controlled Afghanistan. When we left, the Taliban filled the void. And actually, we beat a retreat. We were being defeated by the Taliban effectively. Taliban was taking over anyway. We could not maintain control of the country from a distance or indefinitely. And so everybody working with the United States was going to be probably captured and imprisoned or killed by the Taliban. So we brought all of our collaborators back to the United States because we owe them. We owe these people. Like we owe the Israelis, like we owe the Kurds, like
No, we
we
don't.
owe we owe the Ukrainians. We owe these people in Afghanistan.
Hey, Set, pause real
I
quick.
don't like that.
So we bring
Yeah,
this.
go ahead, Monty.
So one, we don't owe anybody anything, and two,
Agreed.
you know how we solve this problem? Every
What's that?
time we go to war with a country, don't just go to war just fucking because. But when we do go to war with a country, we fucking colonize it and fucking kick the people that are fucking causing the problems out.
Hey,
That's
Monty,
what we
question.
do. That's how you solve
Hey,
that
Monty,
problem.
question. When was the last time the United States went to actual war?
1946
Wrong.
or 42, sorry.
2003, the Iraqi
We
attack. When
we did
we
not
actually
we did not declare
declared
war
war.
on
We
the global
did.
war on terrorism. We declared war on terrorism. We did not declare war on a country.
Right, but we declared war on terrorism in 2003, and we went into Iraq and we took out who?
Fucking Saddam Hussein.
And
Not exactly.
that was the last time the United States declared war, and we never quote unquote ended that war. You have to understand, we declared war. We didn't declare war in 2001. We got hit. You guys remember? I don't know how old you guys are. Do you guys remember 9/11?
I mean, I
Mm,
was 3, but kind of.
yeah, shoot. Yeah, I was like,
I
I
remember
got
the
pulled out of
fallout
school.
from 9/11, but I don't
Okay,
remember watching
I was
CNN.
I wasn't old. I was a freshman in high school when it
Yeah.
happened.
Mm,
So I went to school. I was living in Alaska at the time. And
Hmm.
so a big thing about Anchorage, Alaska is it's a big military town. So
Yep.
most of the like people and
mm,
the like the dads and stuff, they all worked at the bases and stuff around town. And so that was a really big thing. Like everyone was like, "Oh my god," because like 90% of our town got called up because it was all of a sudden, "Hey, we're at war."
Yep.
It was a little weird. I actually had a German, I was in German class and I had a teacher who from Germany who had lived through World War II, which is really interesting, but luckily I'm old enough to say that. But I was only 14 in 2001, so I like I said, I'm not that old. I'm a millennial. Um, she came into class and she replayed the towers getting blown down that morning.
Hmm.
She turned the news on and just left it on, and she basically told us that her whole childhood was uh, a game of hide and seek, because she was not that old to where she was more than maybe 6 or 7 during World War II at the end of it. But she says when she the only thing she really remembers of America was that a bunch of the soldiers that raided her town to liberate it, quote unquote, right? We can talk about that a different time, but they were African American soldiers and they brought chocolate and water in bottles that they'd never seen before, and they called them the chocolate men
yeah.
because it was the American soldiers and they were chocolate brown. She'd never seen a black man before in her entire life.
Oh, damn.
Well, I mean, it was Germany back then,
Yeah, it makes
and
sense. It makes sense. It makes sense.
we got to think Europe. I mean, for as much as the Persian Empire invaded and Africa, Europe kind of kept itself pretty white, and it still has, if you think about it.
I
Um,
mean, shoot, you ask the guys about the UK, they're telling us it's turning brown. So,
oh no, the UK is not turning brown. The UK is turning Arab.
ha, I can agree with
Brown
that.
is I'm gonna tell you right now, Africans, there are so many things about the world. So I grew up in Alaska. There were no
Oh,
black people around me at all. I didn't. So you know what I knew about black people? They
They live in the
were
South.
no, they were from Africa and the South, and they evolved around the equator. So of course they're going to be black because
yeah.
they're next to the
They're
sun,
extra close to the sun.
right?
But all
Well,
right, guys,
think about it.
let's get back into the video. No.
No, but think about that in terms like
Mhm,
humans evolve where they're from.
mhm.
So if you have a group of people that evolve around the equator, of course they're going to be darker skinned. If you have a group of people that are in caves up by the glaciers that never see the sun, they're going to evolve also extremely white.
All right,
I,
all right. But
I
now we got a bit off topic, guys. So let's just try to get back to the video. We'll kind of round it back. We did get off topic. But all right.
okay.
Over under Operation Allies Welcome. And again, is this guy a fanatical Muslim? It would seem not, on the basis of how he came here. He didn't come here as a refugee. He came here basically as a U.S. mercenary. Big difference.
Hmm.
He didn't come here as a refugee fleeing persecution and violence, although in a sense he was fleeing persecution and violence because he was a U.S. government employee. That's why he was being persecuted. That's why he was fleeing. So he's really a U.S. government employee who was extracted from Afghanistan. He would continue living in Afghanistan if a friendly government remained. If we remained, he would still be there. He was extracted from Afghanistan by his patron that he was a client for, by his boss, the United States. That's how he came here. Not an ordinary refugee, not part of mass migration or anything like that. And so this changes how we look at the attack. Was this guy some Muslim extremist? Well, it would seem that would be unlikely because there are many Muslim extremists in Afghanistan. You've got ISIS-K, the Khorasan group. You've got the Taliban. You got the Pakistani and the Afghan Taliban. You've got Balochistan and the separatists over there. You've got a lot of sectarian violence. You've got a lot of ethnic, tribal, religious violence in this region. Afghanistan is really not a real country.
And guys, we're going to have a lot of propaganda to fight, even on our side, because there's even guys on our side on MAGA that's trying to say, oh, he was here illegally. No, he wasn't. And trust me, if you spew that, the liberals are going to cook you.
It's a hodgepodge of a bunch of different tribes and ethnicities. You've got Turks, you've got Pashtun, you've got a lot of different kinds of people living there. And so it would seem that if this guy was working with the United States, probably he was not a fanatic. Probably he was not a radical Muslim, a Taliban supporter, an ISIS supporter, because he would have been working with the enemy of those groups. He's a U.S. mercenary. So who is this guy really? The family says they're surprised because they said he loved the United States. So is this a Muslim refugee that killed Americans for Islamism? Or is this a former U.S. service member who went off for some reason? And it raises some questions. Understanding this, you might wonder.
Can you pause it for 1 second, Set?
No, hold on. But now let me say something, though. Monty, I ain't gonna lie. Nick Fuentes is taking the opposite opinion, I believe, of what you were stating, because I'm a little surprised about what he's saying.
No, I'm not talking about Nick Fuentes, his specific opinions on this matter. I'm talking about Nick Fuentes representing Christianity and comparing that to radical Islamists.
You're right.
Nick Fuentes does not, and I'm going to say this 100%, Nick Fuentes does not, in my opinion, represent Christianity at all. I believe he represents, in my opinion, some of the most depraved parts of Christianity. But even if you compare the worst parts of what he believes to the basic parts of Islam, he looks like a saint.
Oh, man, come on now. Come on. The basic parts of Islam.
You were getting into the minutia of the fact. It was an overgeneralization to prove a point. It was not a direct comparison. What I'm saying is you guys were talking about the Quran and getting into minutia over really irrelevant things because it doesn't matter what the Quran says. All we have is how they're interpreting it and how they're taking it. You can argue that it's good. You can argue that it's bad. You can argue that it's a peaceful religion. You can argue that it's a crazy cult. But wherever you have radical Islamists, you have terrorism. Period. End of story.
It's 100% true. Well, we're starting to see that now with atheists in the United States, where you have atheism, you have radical terrorists, and that's kind of what we're starting to see. And
people are so ignorant to the fact of the point. We're not talking about. I'm denouncing Islamists or radical Islamists as not even a part of the religion. Everybody wants to get up in arms if I say radical Islamists. It's not about that. It's
because they want you to
nothing
shame the whole religion, Monty.
The hardest. You guys, the hardest part about it is
the first comment is, "Oh, I have plenty of Muslims in my life, and they're not at all bloodthirsty psychos." Then I'm not talking about them, Cinderella. If the shoe fits, fucking wear it. If the shoe doesn't fit, keep fucking walking. Like, Jesus Christ.
That's a nice slipper, bitch. That's a nice slipper that you're wearing.
like I don't understand where the disconnect is. I'm not talking about Islam. I'm talking about people that are fucking using Islam as a reason to garner power, become warlords, and exert terror through division, using a religion as their backbone to do so. This
So
this has
here's
nothing this has nothing to
you.
do with Mohammed dating or marrying a 6-year-old. This has nothing to do with Jesus being a
Okay.
carpenter. We are living in 2025, not freaking 0 AD or 600 AD. This is the world we're living in, and this is the result of a group of people that are united in a mission to destroy fucking Western civilization. I'm not talking about Muslims. I'm talking about people that claim to be Muslims. And however you want
No,
to draw
no,
that,
wrong.
connect those
You're wrong.
dots.
No, you're wrong on that. Islam does believe those things, and Islam does instill those things. And there is a reason why in Dearborn
I
they
don't
are
believe that.
trying to set up Sharia courts. That's
So
why in London,
explain to me why 2 billion people are in this world are Muslim and we don't have 2 billion terrorists on our hands.
Good point.
we do. Are you kidding me right now?
We
Okay,
We
that's
are
come on now. That's stretching it. But I
we
could go
are
ahead.
looking at no, there are insurrections every year. Every year in Europe, there are terrorist attacks on Christmas festivals. Every year,
again,
there's some asshole that takes a van that drives in and kills 20 people. Why? Because he hates Christmas. And he jumps out of the van and he screams, Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar!
that
Allah
doesn't mean that
Yeah, and
Akbar!
that guy was also a service member.
Right. That doesn't matter. Who
That
cares if
kind of
you served in the
does, because what is wrong
military?
with these guys that used to be service members that are doing these crimes, and why do they
Well,
always come
what's
back to
wrong
a
in the
connection
United
to the
States?
military?
22 every 22 seconds, right? You guys know what I'm talking about? 22.
yes, I know. That's not that, but you're
Well,
missing
so
the
why are they
entire
killing
point of what I'm
themselves?
saying.
Why are they killing
But
themselves?
that's
Is it
not
the
all
same thing?
Muslims, though. You're trying to frame it as the Muslims are just this radical cult, but they're not. You're taking the extremists and trying to frame it as all of them believe in this. And Monty had a
But if
good
you
point.
That's
put
like
If
that,
saying,
they all believed in
hold on,
this,
hold on,
we
hold
would
on,
be
hold on.
getting military
Let's
struck
take that
every
let's
day.
take that example you just used. Let's take the example you just used. Every 22 seconds, a service member kills themselves. That doesn't mean every service member, the 300 or the 3 million of them, are all suicidal. That means that
it
there's a
doesn't, but
problem.
it does mean every 22 seconds, one of them kills themselves. And that is fucked up.
Yes, it's absolutely fucked up, but to paint
But
a
they're
broad
killing
brush over them,
themselves. So question, what are the Muslims doing? They're not killing themselves.
Yeah, they
Absolutely
are.
in
not.
some cases
Yeah,
they
they
are.
are. What you mean? Yeah, they
Uh
are. Bro,
when was the
Pakistan just killed a
last
whole bunch of Afghanis. Pakistan and Afghanis are at war right now. There's a conflict going on right now between them.
that's that is well wait the Pakistanis
Yeah, and
and
the
the
Afghans. I
Afghanis.
know. Yeah, I know. The guys you low-key thought would low-key be cool. The guys that kind of both hate
And for
America
the
are fighting.
for the record, it's 22 a day, not every 22 seconds.
Oh, 22. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was extreme. I agree.
I think 22 seconds is the amount of burglaries that happen in the US or something like that.
Or
Probably
as
so.
Allstate said, car crashes.
Yeah. So no, but that's what I'm using that example because I said not there's not 2 billion terrorists walking around because they believe different things. They take the same book and read it 5 different ways and you get a small select group of them that read it the way that we get to see every day on the news when someone drives a van into a crowd and shouts Allah Akbar and shoots people. And that
Monty,
is
Monty, a good
what?
question on that would be Palestine. What do you think about October and what happened at the music festival where they literally
Again,
ran in,
was that 2
slaughtered,
billion
and
Muslims that
kidnapped?
went in? Was that 2 billion Muslims that went in and attacked Israel, or was that
A,
maybe
cou-
No,
a couple
a small
no,
hundred?
group of Palestinians.
it was just
Yes.
it wasn't a small group of
Well,
Palestinians. It was
compared to
a
the entire population of 2.3 million, about 25,000 is a small group.
2.3 million didn't walk in across the border. That's what I'm saying.
But
Painting
they
people
also
with
didn't
broad.
walk out of their. They didn't walk out of their country. They still stood there
But
and
here's
supported
the thing, though.
Hamas.
But here's the thing. See, this is what I'm saying. We forget. We don't look at both sides because Israel was attacking them before October 7th. October 7th, as horrible as it was not unprovoked. They actually tried to have a peaceful protest, and Israeli snipers were killing the protesters. And then let's be real, there was maybe a month or maybe a couple weeks before they bombed the mosque. And that's what popped off October 7th. So it wasn't unprovoked. It wasn't because they just hate Jews for no reason. These guys being poked at for decades by Israel. So when I seen October
But you have to
7th, as
understand
gruesome as
something.
it was,
You have to
I seen
understand
it
that.
and I was like, well, what you thought was gonna happen?
Well, no, they're angry because we gave Israel their homeland back. So you have to take this all back to World War
No, we
II.
kind of
You have to you
sold
do
their homeland with under them. We kind of
we
sold
didn't.
their homeland with under them, and then
You,
transported a whole bunch of weapons to Jewish terrorists that terrorized those people, kicked them off
Zionist
their
terrorists,
land,
yeah.
and now here we are today. So it's not as holy as they try to make it sound.
it
No,
was never holy in the beginning. That's why
But
I'm
it's the
saying
Holy
you have to
Land,
take
though,
it back.
right?
You have to take it back to World War II, which honestly, Jerusalem was under whose control at the end of World War II?
British.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Yeah, and
British
they sold
Empire.
it to the Rothschild in
No,
1890,
no,
and
no.
then and that's why we have it today. And
They
this is
didn't
what, and then
no, they
and then they
didn't
start
sell it to the
resettling after World War
they
II.
didn't
They
sell
start
it to
resettling.
they didn't sell it to the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds invested in it for the Jews, is what they
They
did.
that's selling it.
That's selling
Investing
It's
is
it. I
selling
mean, they
part of
sold
something.
it, and then the Jewish
it's
mafia
not
supported
selling
the
it. It's
terrorism.
essentially what the Rothschilds did is they put money in
Look, here's the thing.
to
It's
make sure
funny
the
how we
That's
talk
what
Jews.
about Israel, but Israel
that's
was
what
built off
buying
Yeah,
is
but
when
terrorism,
you.
but then we're
do you
getting mad
guys
about a whole
realize how
bunch of
big
terrorists.
Israel is? Do you guys realize how big that
It's
country
the
is?
size of New Jersey. We understand, but they have the most advanced military in that. Well, honestly, most advanced military and intelligence agency in the area.
That's not true. Ask the
What?
Saudis.
No,
Ask the
yes, it is. They
Saudis.
have the best, bro. The Mossad is cold. They cold with it.
The
Now
Mossad
the
can do a.
Well,
IDF,
Mossad, you know what though? You know what? We have to all just one thing, can we just acknowledge that fucking Epstein was a part of Mossad and that's kind
yes,
of fucked up?
we can
But
have
I
we can.
mean, that's that
Just
you're we're straying
just
out
as
of
a
the.
damn dude, it actually draws full circle set that you say that because it's like, oh shit. Well, yeah, you're right. Mossad is cold. And
So what I'm saying, and we're straying right out of the topic again.
Mhm.
That you're associating groups that are sensationalized as representative of the group because their book can be interpreted that way.
no,
The
no, no. Tell me
I
about
mean,
Dearborn again. Tell me about Dearborn again and
again,
what they're
again,
trying
when
to
you
do.
have a concentration of Islamic believers, the cream of the crop rises to the top. So when you have people that are more assertive and more orthodox in their beliefs and in their views, they're going to be the vocal ones. That's why every politician that's Muslim is a fucking radical Muslim, because those are the ones that are assertive. Those are the ones that rise to power. Those are the ones that get the microphone to talk. Those are the, like, you can go into that community and like, again, it goes back to the prisoner and the guard scenario. One guard can watch 100 prisoners. As long as none of them run, the guard doesn't have to kill anybody, and the prisoners won't run. But they outnumber them 100 to 1. Why not just rush him? Because no one wants to be the first one to die. So that's
There's
how
no
they
one,
get.
there is no one